everybody, we're back here at our next album in line here for the Judas Priest album reviews. This time looking at a super controversial one, 1997's Jugulator. And boy oh boy, if you thought Rock-A-Rolla or Ram It Down, Turbo, those were controversial, this thing right here is a lot more than that. That takes controversial to the next level because Rob Halford's out of the band at this point. Tim the Ripper Owens is leading the band here, and he does it for 2 albums. But I'll go ahead and preface this by saying I don't dislike this album. I think it's a good album, and I'm not just trying to say that to be like, oh, I've got a different opinion on here. I just really dig I wouldn't say really dig it, but I do like the album. I don't think it's bad, and I'll get into kind of why here as we run through these tracks. The title track, Jugulator, cool way to introduce. Very cool way to introduce Tim to the band with his vocal style. Kind of demonstrates what he's got, and I do appreciate too that he's not an exact copy of Rob's vocals. I mean, obviously there's the similarities with the high pitch stuff, which is cool. That kind of needed to be retained for Priest, but he does have kind of like a distortion and growl on his voice sometimes. So I think it's pretty cool. But there are also some negatives, which I'll jump into on some of these later tracks. But yeah, Jugulator, really cool track. Then we've got Bloodstained. That one's good, but kind of a filler one. Kind of a forgettable track there. Then we've got Dead Meat. I do dig that one, but again, a lot of these are just kind of forgettable tracks if you really are a Priest fan and have listened to them a lot. Then we've got Death Row, which this one's a weird one, right? The intro is kind of strange. I'll say the chorus is hooky and all that, but the intro is kind of strange. It has a lot of like spoken word parts within it and all that that are kind of weird, trying to tell the story of someone on death row, but it doesn't really work for me. Not a horrible song, but not one of my favorites. Possibly my least favorite off here, or one of them. But yeah, so far, Jugulator, Bloodstained, Dead Meat, those are decent tracks, especially Jugulator, but the Death Row, Decapitate, another one I'm not too fond of. And it's mainly because the guitar solo, I don't need to hear Priest with a wah-wah pedal. That was just kind of off-putting. I was like, is this like, I don't know. I was not really buying into the whole wah-wah pedal solo. And also, I'll mention too, on these Death Row and Decapitate, those 2 tracks, there's this weird Alice in Chains kind of vibe Tim Ripper Owens does sometimes on both albums. Demolition more so than this album. But, and it's kind of hard to explain, it's like he does like this weird Lane Staley kind of thing that doesn't fit at all with Judas Priest. It's really strange. You'd really have to listen to it and really, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's pretty strange. Then we've got one of my favorite tracks off the album, Burn in Hell. That is a badass song. And, super heavy. This whole album is up there with one of their heaviest albums. Probably right behind Painkiller, if not tied with it, as heaviest. They both borderline speed metal, if they're not, But yeah, Burn in Hell, very great song, actually. I do really, really dig that track. And I also dig this next one, Brain Dead. Another cool one. And the one after even, Abductors. See, like, about halfway through, once you get to track 6 and onward, the album does pick up, and you start kind of getting into it. It's like, okay, there's some pretty good stuff on here, and it's not as bad as what people may think, right? So yeah, Burn in Hell, Brain Dead, Abductors, cool stuff. Bullet Train, really badass track. one of my favorites off here. That one, Burn in Hell, and then track 10 is my favorite off here easily, and it's actually a 9 minute 17-second, really long song. One of the longest Priest songs, especially up to this point. Cathedral Spires. That is an epic, very beautiful song that starts off with the clean guitar and very clean vocals, and then just kicks into gear. That's an incredible song. And overall, this is not an album I come back to very much at all when listening to. If I'm going to listen to Priest, this is more than likely, I would say 90% of the time, maybe even more than that, I'm not going to put it on. But I still do, I think it does get more hate than it deserves, because there are some really good tracks on here. If I am going to listen to this album, typically, or put on something from this album, it'll be Burn in Hell, Bullet Train, or Cathedral Spires, about halfway through the album. But with albums like this, I tend to kind of go to that I've heard a lot of negative feedback about. But this is not the first time I've heard the album. I've heard it a couple times. But I try to go into those with like my own open mind just to see, because I get it that it's not Rob Halford. Obviously, he's the metal god, Rob is, and he needs to be front and priest. I'm all in on that, but I'll give credit where credit's due. This is a decent album. Like, I can put this on and enjoy it. So I don't think it's a terrible, terrible record at all. But next time, we'll look at 2001's. Look at that, we're already in the 2000s. 90s didn't take very long for Priest, but 2001's Demolition, which we'll dig more into, and I'll give some... that one's probably even more controversial than this album. But yeah, overall, I do suggest people check out this album. And on my page, I'll post the 2 songs, since it's 2 for Tuesday. I'll post 2 songs that, I think people should definitely check out off here. But anyways, thanks guys, and tune in for that next video on Demolition. Thanks a lot.